Ani bonjour, Bomgijik and Disnikaz. Genebe Gukshabigaj Watan Don Jaba. Gnoje Do Dem. I'm from the Fish Clan. I'm from Serpent River First Nation, and I currently reside at Nimki Ojbekong. I want to talk a little bit today about stars. You know, I remember growing up hearing stories about the stars. They would talk about Jawanang, the South Star, or Wabnang, the Morning Star, or they'd talk about different constellations, you know, like Nagajig, they would talk about, or they talk about Babunane, or they talk about, you know, the Great Dipper, and they told stories about these things. And I guess growing up, that was like my movies. Those were like my movie theaters. And so looking up at the stars was a very important part of my upbringing. And they say that the stars are an actual map, and they hold the ancient code on how to live here on Earth. And so if we understand the stars, we can understand our connection to the Earth here. The old people always said we come from there. They say we were lowered down from the stars here onto this Earth. That's our creation story, that we come from there. And that the people that are up there will one day come back. They always talked about that. Some of the elders still talk about that. And so I want to know, well, where do I come from? If I'm not really from here, where do I come from? What is up there? And the word that comes to mind is magic. That's a very magical place up there. They say when we're born, we go through 4 powers. We enter into our mom's stomach, and then we're enter this great lodge here on earth. And when we die, we go through the Milky Way, Jibai Mikan, and we go to the spirit world through that road, and we end up back where we come from. So we believe that we come from there. And so the stars play a significant role, not just in our being, our physical being and our spiritual being, but how we live here. And so years ago, our lodges oftentimes were set up so that they were aligned celestially. A lot of our lodges faced it east, because when the sun came up, the light would enter our lodges, and it would fill our lodges with goodness. And then we'd go out and we'd work with the sun. And as the sun went down, we'd go back to our lodges. And they call that path Wabano Mikan, that path that sun follows. And the sun never takes a step back. It always keeps going forward. That's what we're supposed to do in life. We're to keep pushing forward through everything and be thankful for what we have on our journey. They used to make something called Wabano Gamek, which was a great lodge that celebrated the celestial life that was connected here. And they would, of course, point the poles of this lodge to certain stars at certain times of year so that they could be connected. So that when we're living inside that lodge, we're connected to the celestial world. They say in the sky there's a hole. They call that hole Baganogijik, the great hole in the sky. In our lodges on top, that smoke hole is also called Baganogijik. When you think about a lodge, there's 2 of them. And I'm going to draw it down for you on a piece of paper. Just like that. They say that there's a lodge above our lodge, and that's the spirit world. When we eat down here, they're eating up there. When we sing our songs down here, they're singing their songs up there. And we're connected through this hole in the sky called Baganogijik. So when they used to make their lodges, they'd connect the poles celestially. And how they did that was at nighttime. They would use their hand and count how many handprints it was from a star directly down to the top of a tree. And then during the day, you would count from the top of that tree up. And you knew exactly where that star was during the day. And you would put your pole at that pitch, at that angle, so you would be able to get it exactly. And during ceremony, they would feast those poles. They would tie ribbons on there. They'd put bowls of food there to celebrate those stars because they were a part of our life. We lived like that. The wigwam was absolutely perfect. The design didn't have to change for thousands and thousands of years. It remained the same because it spiritually connected us to the stars. It connected us with the original teachings here of earth. It didn't have to change. It was perfect. And it promoted sharing, caring, love, honesty, respect, integrity, all of those things. And you knew you were safe in there because it was connected to the stars. Because we are connected to the stars. That's where we come from. And so living in those lodges was a very important part of our governance and our laws because they kept us grounded. They kept us in accordance to Chinak Nagay Waninan, the great laws that are here. When you look up and you see some of those pictures hanging in the sky, when you look up and you see the Big Dipper, that's a sacred site hanging above us. So make offerings to that. There's great stories about it. When you see the small dipper, make offerings. When you see the pictures that are there, make offerings to them because they can help us. Many of those stars are people. They were Anishinaabe people. They were human beings that lived here on earth that got turned into stars. We're surrounded by magic. We're surrounded by a massive life force. And we're a part of it. We're in there somewhere. And that magic is also inside of us. It's inside of us somewhere too. Believe. You know, oftentimes when we live in society, we get confused and we get lost. You know, especially when you get to be my age, you know, all you think about is big trucks, lots of money. You think about having everything all the time. You think about, you know, how good you are and how the bestest you are and everything. That's not the way to live. Young people, old people, they know the answers. You know, children are stargazers. Old people are stargazers because they see that magic. So listen to the young people. If they want to sit there and stare at the sky, if those little children want to stare at the sky for hours, sit with them. Look at the stars with them. Take the time to be with them because they're trying to show us something amazing. That's a star blanket above us. That blanket is filled with so much knowledge and information and good spirits. That blanket that hangs over us, that has all those pictures on there, is so sacred. Always remember, no matter what happens down here on earth, there's always sacred sites that we can go to that hang above us. So thank you for listening to what I had to say. I wish I could talk more about this because there's so many cool stories about stars that I'd like to tell, but there's just not enough time. But, you know, just know this. Every culture, every tribe, every people, they all have their own stories. And they're all a piece of the puzzle to a bigger story. There's no story that's wrong. They're all right. Believe in them all. Know that this great mystery that covers everything is vast and it has many parts. And respect all of them. Because when we do that, we get a better understanding of things. And we have much to learn from each other. So build your people up, support them, sing your songs, celebrate your diversity at the same time as supporting other people and their beliefs, their songs, their dances, their prayers. That's really important. That's something that the stars teach us. Nahaw miigwech, thank you for listening. Bama piko up min, minwa. Nahaw.